Welcome to Kicking It Local. I am Johnny Kecko, and throughout this series I'll be sitting down with local guests within the football community here in South Australia, coaches, players, officials, and there's sure to be a great story in every single guest. And today I am joined by a senior head coach of the Adelaide Comets in the National Premier League, Barney Smith. Thanks for joining me, mate.
No worries, Johnny. Pleasure.
Mate, it's good to have you in here. Last year, 2021, a big year for the club. Dying moments in the final rounds of the regular season. You guys managed to finish top. What was the feeling like and buzz within the room for that week of after scoring that final winner?
Unreal, as you can imagine. Moments in football stick with you for life, and that's one that I think anyone involved in the day and that was there will never forget. For a number of reasons, but an exciting finish to the end of the season in the league. Probably around 6 weeks out, we played Adelaide City, and we'd done well against them the first time we played them. The second time we went to their ground, we knew it was going to be a tough assignment. They're playing really well under Pez and difficult to score against. And if we lost that game that day, that was probably it. It was probably wrapped up. The gap was going to be too big to be able to catch them to challenge for top of the league. But fortunate enough that our team played well and we scored 2 in the second half to win that game. And then all of a sudden it was back on, because instead of us being 8 points away from them with, say, 5 rounds to go, it was only 5 points. And the one thing that we sort of focused on leading into those last rounds was the year before in 2020 when we won the league. We were out in front. And I know that we felt the pressure each week going into each game top of the league, knowing that at the time Metro Stars and Campbelltown were trying to chase us and putting pressure on us to get results. So we used that experience the year before and sort of said to the boys, look, there's going to be pressure on them. You know what that's like. You've just experienced it last year. So if we can keep picking up points and keep putting the pressure on, hopefully, they've got a tough run in. They've played some good sides. We did too. But we just thought if we can keep picking up points and they drop a few, then it's going to be on. And going into the last round, we were even on points. Probably fortunate that we both played teams that needed to win to get into the finals. You know, Croydon went all out to try and beat City to get into the finals, and Olympic as well. Olympic had to beat us to get into the final series, so that made for an open game. And in those final few seconds, what people there know, and it added to the drama, but Olympic were going all out. They scored, I think actually the league changed about 5 times that day. We started the day level on points, but behind on goal difference. So we were second, and then we actually conceded first. So we went 1-0 down to Olympic, and they were then in the final series. They were going to be playing finals. City and Croydon were still drawing. Then we equalised and made it 1-1, and then we scored straight away. Yep. So we went 2-1 up. So we went from being second to first. So now we were going to win the league. They were still level. Then Olympic were going all out to try and get into the finals. So they were attacking, bombarding us, trying to score. Scored in the 78th minute to make it 2-2. Yep. So we then were like, now we're dropping back to second. Then Croydon scored in the 84th and went 1-0 up. So we went back to first.
Jeez. It was full on. I was trying to keep track of it all, and I was in the car on the way home from another game.
You were. Try coaching a team and have people yelling at you. We're first. No, we're second. No, we're first. No, we're second.
And it's incredible because people in the Adelaide City camp, their game was finished. They thought they may have won the league.
Well, at some point. So Croydon scored, and then we were like, and you know, you kind of change your tactics a little bit. We were 2-2, and Olympic was still trying to win the game. And when Croydon scored and we went to first, we were literally all out defence, just trying to hang on to the 2-2 draw. Because credit to Olympic, they just kept coming because they were trying to make the finals. And then we heard 88th minute, obviously Joe Costa scored and made it 1-1 there.
And that's when...
So we went from all out defence to, City scored. You're now second again, they're first. And it was like complete change. Now we've got to go all out and try and score.
In the local leagues, it's incredible to have that kind of excitement in that final round. And it was back and forth, back and forth. And then we thought it was all done. But then in the extra time, you guys managed to come back and score a winner.
Well, I think that's what added to the drama too, Johnny. I mean, and it's exciting, whether we were part of it or not. I think for everybody out there, you want an exciting local league. It brings fans back. It brings interest to the game. But in the 91st minute, and our game finished slightly later to City and Croydon's game. So I think they finished and were watching the end of our game. Jayden Labusso had pressured Lewis Moss. He got a back pass. And as he kind of went to sort of clear it, he kicked it straight into Jayden's chest. And it dropped for Jayden. He took a little bit of a heavy touch, but it was still an open goal. He's round the keeper. He just needed to pass it into the net. And I remember the moment. I can't forget it. We all jumped up off the bench. It was like, this is it. Like, it's an open goal. Jayden's going to score. We're going to win the league in the 91st minute.
Yep.
And he hits the post. Unfortunately for Jayden, he did everything right. He just, in that moment, he tried to put it on target, and it's just clipped the inside of the post, and then they've cleared it out for a corner. And I remember turning around, looking down at everybody on our bench, and everybody had their hands on their heads, like, oh God, we've just missed a sitter to win the league. And I think at that moment, a lot of people probably thought
that was it.
Yeah, it's all over. I was still encouraging the boys. I didn't make a decision whether we'd won it or not. I just kept encouraging the boys because I knew Olympic were throwing everything at us, that there were still gaps.
Yep.
And there was still potentially an opportunity there. And we'd scored a lot of late goals. And we talked about this as a group that, it is not over against us until that final whistle goes.
Yep.
And we've got late goals and we can score goals late. We've got lots of goal scorers on the field. So we just keep going. And amazingly, in that last moment, Ninko's pinched the ball off of Tito on the halfway line, beaten a player, and then it's a 3-on-3, and he's found a great pass into Nathan Antijanto, who just took up a beautiful spot, and what a finish in the 93rd minute after we just hit the post. And I think that's why you see the celebration. It's not just because it was a 93rd minute winner. It's also because we just missed the sitter and hit the post, which is why a lot of people kind of went crazy at the end to win the league.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, you did a repeat of the year before, making it to the grand final, unfortunately not getting the double. Have you guys changed the way you're going to tackle this season in 2022? No,
not really. It's hard. Let me tell you, it's hard work losing grand finals.
Yeah.
And it's not enjoyable at all. Believe me, we obviously want to win the grand final. We want to win every trophy that's on offer, as does every other team. Whether you're putting importance on one or the other, that's up to you if you do. But I think absolutely the club wants to win a grand final. The players do, all the coaching staff and everybody there, because it's the one feat that the club has left to conquer. They've come from humble beginnings in the amateurs, came into the federation. They've won the State League 2 division, got promotion. They've won State League 1 and got promotion. They've won an FFA Cup. The girls are in the top league. They've got promotion. The only thing the club hasn't done is win a championship in the NPL and won a grand final. So do we want to? Of course we do. And does it hurt when you lose them? Absolutely, particularly when it's on penalties. And going into this year, the same thing applies as what we did going into 2021. You will not win a grand final if you're not in it.
Yep.
If you want a guarantee, I'll give you one. And that is, and I say this to the boys, I'll guarantee you won't win a grand final if you don't get in it. And 12 teams this year, just like us, are all lining up to have a good season. And all 12 teams are going to try and win and get to the grand final. But I'll guarantee you'll never win one if you don't get in it. And I'd rather be in them with a chance to win one, competing for the championship, than sitting in the stands watching from the sideline. And it's the same this year. Every year we think we gain more experience. We've got quite a young group of players that have gone through this experience now, and that only holds them in better stead for if they get back there. They're experienced in grand finals, and they won't be as nervous. They won't be, sort of overawed by the situation. I actually feel like the team did really well. We were missing a few players in the grand final in 2021 and playing against a really good side again. Pez had taken over at City, put together a formidable side that were playing really good football, super good in transition as well. And we knew they were deadly if you lose the ball against them in the middle third, and which they tried to do. But we felt like and my comments after the first half was that I was disappointed. We knew what the trap was. We still played into it, and they had some good opportunities. But as the game went on, felt like we started to wrestle that back in our favour. We ended up with 2 great chances. One, Welsh's header in the second half just hit Aladdin in the head.
Yep.
If that goes an inch either side, we go 1-0 up.
Absolutely.
And then right at the end, 2 things happened. Jules made an unreal save to keep us in the game, and I felt like he was the best on ground that night. No disrespect to the awards given out, and obviously everyone has their opinions, and Lockie's a great defender. As we spoke off air, he's now representing Adelaide United, which about time. Glad to see him in the A-League. But Jules that night was unreal. He had such a good game. And in the extra time, that chance that fell to Welshie, there was 5 minutes left on the clock. The ball drops to him inside the 18-yard box. He's a prolific scorer that, the year before won the Golden Boot. I jumped up then again. Yep. Maybe I should stop jumping up, because every time I jump up, it doesn't go in.
It struck you to the seat.
I thought that was the moment.
Yep.
It dropped to him inside the box. He's such a clinical finisher and a good technician, Welshie. And that's what he actually tried to do it. He tried to, instead of hit it with power, he just tried to place it, but unfortunately he hit it straight at Woody, and it went straight into his hands. But that was the big moment for us. That could have gone in, and we would have won.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about the last few seasons for so long, but your coaching career, I want to talk a bit about your dad, Ron Smith. He's coached in, for those that don't know, for Perth Glory. He's coached overseas in the Australian system, and also for the AIS. That obviously that would have an impact on you and directed you to where you are today, and a little bit of an influence on the way you coach at the Comets. What kind of influences can you pinpoint that have pretty much stuck with you from your dad's style of coaching?
I think just naturally by osmosis, being around him, there's probably a lot that he influences, and that can be just us watching a game. When he doesn't live in Adelaide, but obviously whenever he comes to Adelaide, we'll go down to watch Adelaide United and watch a game live. Sit in the crowd and watch the game, and then he doesn't shut up for the whole game, and he'll be talking about things that are happening on the field.
Does he say what should be happening and stuff like that?
Yeah, he'll talk about the 2 different sides and how they're counteracting each other, or what's happening in the game, what he thinks one team needs to do more of, or if he's impressed with a certain way a team's playing or players on the field. It can be a whole range of tactics to technique, and athletes too. He and we'll do that whether we're watching a game at home, or together when we can get to a game live. Obviously, with the COVID years, that hasn't happened that often. But growing up, I probably didn't take as much notice of it because I was playing, and not really thinking about coaching. But probably two big influences was him for me to get into coaching. And when I finished playing, Martin Crook, the late Martin Crook, here in SA, because I was here in SA when I finished playing, and Martin was the head of football for the FSA then and coach education. And being also a goalkeeper himself that got into coaching, I'd run into Martin a few times, and he was encouraging me and saying, I think you should get into coaching. He actually said, we had a conversation, and he said to me, I don't think you should be a goalkeeper coach. Some of your insights and your influences and things you've said, I think you should get into coaching. And Michael Petrillo too at the time was another one that I remember speaking to him. He was one of the successful coaches at Raiders at the time, and had a chat to him about it, and he said the same thing. He said, yeah, go for it. And I think that generally when you finish playing, you want to stay involved in the game. Yeah. So all roads led to coaching. I kind of jokingly also say goalkeepers make good coaches, because all we do is stand there and watch games anyway and
analysing,
and profess to know everything. Yeah. If you've listened to a goalkeeper on the field, we never make mistakes, and everybody else does. So, but yeah, I thought I'd get involved with Martin, and obviously supported, as any father would, support your son in what he's going to do. Yep. And that's how it all sort of kicked off. Since then, he always takes a back seat with me, and lets me sort of find my own path. But definitely just, and some people think we probably talk about our games a lot more, and that he will help me when I'm coaching a team, whatever jobs that I've done. It's funny though, he doesn't. He tells me everything we've done wrong, but not how to fix it. He's like, you got to go and work that out. That's up to you.
Do you prefer that he does that and not getting that influence in that sense of what?
Well, look, 100%. You know, I think any of us do, no matter what walk of life that you're in. And if you've got kids, you know, it's the same. You're trying to encourage your kids to learn and find their own solutions. If you always give them the answers, how do they go and find the answers for themselves?
Would he ever tell you that once you do it right, and that's exactly what I would have done, or just stays quiet?
Look, not really.
No.
And look, he's complimentary about coaching from a perspective of improvement.
Yep.
Not so much. He's not too bothered about, you know, how many games we win or whether we win the league or not or any of those things. You know, coaching takes many different forms. You could be improving young players. You could have a development role. You might be at a club that's trying to survive relegation or just wants to make the finals or is trying to win something. Whatever position you're in those different clubs, coaching takes up a different role. And in those environments, you've got to look for those little improvements to try and get to the end goal that you're after, whether it is to survive relegation or it is to try and make the finals. So he kind of looks at it more so from where did you start and what's improved? Have you been able to improve from where you started?
At the time, your dad was the coach of the AIS when it was roughly the time of the golden generation and coached most of those players. Was there any moments that you think of now that just seemed normal back then, but you would have been surrounded by different things that not many everyday kids would have been surrounded by? Was there anything you look back on now that's you think, oh, that wasn't like saying
just not normal?
Yeah, just not normal. Yeah.
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
Being a young kid, and obviously most of the people involved in football have been young kids where their dad's taking them to the club or their dad's taking them to football every weekend. And we'd all have memories of going to the clubs and hanging around at the club and being there for ages. And obviously it was different for me. I was very lucky to be the kid of the head of the Institute of Sport at the time who was bringing through some of the best talent in Australia that we've ever seen, and was, you know, the head of a refining school that produced more professional A grade, when I say A grade, like EPL players, Serie A or Bundesliga, French League. You know, that golden generation, we had so many footballers that played at the top flight that had gone through the AIS under my old man. Yes, things weren't normal.
Yeah.
You know, as a 12, 13, 14-year-old. I can remember, geez, you get me thinking back now, but Ante Milicic used to be my favourite.
Yep.
He was like a big brother at times. And Speedy was his nickname. But I remember Ante always used to... he had these problems with his feet when he was at the Institute, and his groins. I think he had back then onset OP or different things. But I just remember that at times when he was coming back from injury, and he wouldn't start, he'd come. They'd bring him on at half time, and I used to sneak in and sit on the bench whenever I could, or I'd be close to the bench as much as I could because wherever they played, or if they were up in Sydney playing, the old man had dragged me along, so I'd just always go with them. So I'd travel up and down to Sydney with, you know, this list of professionals, you know, and all these guys used to go to the Institute and would leave home. They'd all leave, you know, Adelaide or Melbourne and Sydney and end up in Canberra at this place. What a lot of people don't know, and some of the biggest stars, you know, they were kids back then. They were 16, 17 years old, leaving home, going to live for 2 years away from home and try and learn as much as they could to become a professional footballer. But a lot got homesick. A lot had brothers and sisters that they missed. And me and my brother, who's 15 months older than me, we kind of end up being like little brothers to all these guys, you know, like because we were always there. And probably as annoying as hell as well, mind you.
I wouldn't be surprised.
A lot of them used to take us under our wing, and we'd spend so much time with them that they were all like older brothers going through when we were younger. But Speedy was one that he used to come up to me and he'd say, "How many do you think I'm going to score in the second half?" And I'd be like, oh, at least one. And he goes, no, I'm going to get 3. And
Yep.
he'd go out and score a hat-trick.
Yep. Oh, wow.
And like give me a wink or point at me after he'd score the 3rd goal. And I used to think he was just unreal.
Yeah.
Or I can remember being in the indoor hall practicing penalties with Viduka.
Oh.
And we were trying to, Mark was showing, he was saying, you can do this trick pen where you run in and just as you're about to take the penalty, as you plant your left foot to kick it with your right foot, you toe punt it with your left foot. And then you swing with your right foot and completely miss everything to throw the keepers off.
Yeah.
And we spent like an hour in there, just me and Viduka, just taking pens, trying to practice this dummy penalty. So that's not normal, right?
No, that's definitely not normal, and I love that. That's an incredible thing. So you go to school and say, I just did some penalties with Viduka.
Well, look, back then, it probably didn't seem that it wasn't normal.
Yeah, but...
Because who was Mark Viduka?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, that's true.
He hadn't become...
what he is today.
The superstar that he is today. He was a young, great striker that had come up from Melbourne that was on scholarship for 2 years and was just another sort of big brother that I was mucking around with after training. And
at that time, you don't realise the football brain you're learning from at that moment. It's incredible that's a really good story.
Another one was Kevin Muscat. He, he was a larrikin back then, and he was. We used to travel in this bus up to Sydney. And the Institute played in the National Youth League back then, so it constantly would be travelling up and down to Sydney to play Marconi and Sydney Olympic and Sydney United, all the teams that were then in the NSL back then, in those days. And Muscat used to take me under his wing just for bad influence most of the time, and he used to beat me up and get me in headlocks and all those sorts of things.
Is that where he learnt all the things he does on the pitch from you?
No, not at all. Not from me. It's probably something I was going to learn from him, but no. He also they used to stop at McDonald's on the way home.
Yeah.
And I remember he used to get like a large Coke and keep the straw and on the bus we'd sit at the back of the bus, and then Muskie would rip off these little bits of the large Coke paper.
Yep.
And then we'd put him in the straw and like pea shoot him at some of the other players that had fallen asleep.
Yep.
And like on the bus and hit him in the back of the head and stuff like that.
How old were you back then? Or how old was he?
I was about 11, 12 years old.
Old enough to know better, but that's
old enough to know better, but I was easily influenced.
He is a bit of a bad influence, isn't he, Muscat?
Oh, look, I think he was a competitor and a fiery one at that, but fantastic career and now a fantastic coach.
Yeah, I was going to say he's gone on to be an incredible coach, overtaking Ange Postecoglou in Japan. So he's doing a very good job now. So you've been around all these amazing people, and I'm sure there's a lot more that you've been surrounded by as well, and all that obviously would impact on the way you coach today at the Adelaide Comets. And we want to go back a little bit now. I could talk about this all day, about your past and all the people you've been surrounded by, but I want to talk a little bit about the Adelaide Comets. For those that don't know, during the 2022 season, you're moving to a new home, which is the Football Centre in South Australia, in Jeps Cross.
Yep.
What's that mean for you guys? Because last year I spoke to you going into the semi-final against Adelaide City at home, and we're talking about the how the pitch is very narrow and having to have two different styles of play away from home and at home.
Yep.
What's that impact to have on you now that you're going to be moving away from SA Athletic Stadium, have a new home? How's that change your style of play?
Look, we have to adapt and change. In fact, I'm looking forward to it because it'll actually let us have a little more consistency in the way that we want to play without having to change to suit the home ground, which in the past has been, the cards that were dealt. And when we talk about new homes or moving home, Comets is home at Ellis Park.
Yeah.
That's home. That's where the club's been built, and eventually the club wants to play and should be playing at Ellis Park. NPL games right there on the fringe of the city. We've got a great opportunity to promote the game and have a fantastic facility there, not just for the Adelaide Comets, but for football in general. For the W League and the A League, if they come here, and most of them stay in hotels in the city.
Yep.
They need somewhere to train. It's right
Perfect.
there.
Yeah.
Just like cricket. Cricket have beaten us to it. And Saka have built that amazing cricket facility right on the corner there, right? And look at that as an advertisement for cricket in South Australia. Everybody driving into town now sees that.
Yeah, well, I remember driving down. You got the Royal Adelaide Hospital on the left, and on the right you got the women Big Bash League playing there, or even the Redback sometimes as well. And it's incredible, and you can watch them as you're driving. I love it.
Exactly. So football right on West Terrace there has a great opportunity. Football SA in partnership with Comets has a great opportunity there to showcase our league.
Yep.
Imagine Friday nights, NPL football, West Terrace.
Yep.
All the suits in town. There's a top division game on. You can go down and watch it on a Friday night. It's not just about our club.
Yep.
And wanting to play there. I think locally it's a great opportunity also to be just like the cricket are, right in front of everybody with a product that people can go down and watch and be part of. You could save the big games for the big derbies or the big games, rivalries like between us and Metro Stars or us and Adelaide City. There's quite a few good teams that you could showcase there and get a really good crowd on a Friday night, and everyone else driving past will take interest and take note.
Well, that's for sure. And also, I think the boys would love it as well, because a win like you did in the final round of 2021, it's not far to go and party and kick on down Hindley Street as well. So
yeah, well, that's right. And the club there, the facility does get booked out all the time because a lot of it you can hire it to use the upstairs function room.
Yep.
And a lot of people have been doing that now. It's quite busy because they've recognised they can have their function there, and then they go straight into town. They just walk into town. But back onto the home pitch. It's probably an unpopular comment amongst my club when I say I don't like Santos either. And I don't. But I could either whinge about it or just deal with the cards and go, well, that's where we play, so we have to adapt and try and have a home advantage that we can use during the season. Every team would be doing that. Every team that's got a home ground would be trying to gain a home advantage by being familiar on their pitch.
Yep.
Just because we've been good at it and the pitch is a bit smaller, it just seems to irritate others. But this happens all over the place in all different codes. Look at Sydney Swans. The SCG is a small field.
Yep.
They've adapted to play well there. That's why they're good at home.
Yep.
Santos actually had the same, when we have the main pitch marked out, it actually had the same dimensions as White Hart Lane for Tottenham Hotspur.
Yep.
Again, teams will adapt things try and play to their advantage. The difficult thing at our level was that we were changing every week, and the accumulated effect of trying to do that is it upsets your rhythm, and you don't get I don't believe you have the opportunity to really get into rhythm in terms of the way that you want to play when you change it every week. Most teams don't. They play one style and they play that way, whether they play at home or they play away. A lot of teams struggle when they come to Santos for that reason too, is because they have one style. It doesn't work there. If you don't have the width. In terms of length, it's as long as any of the plastics in South Australia. So the length isn't the issue, it's the width.
And we'll now moving to the new one. You're going to have a better facility there. I've seen it on the expressway. You can actually see them building it in Jepp's Cross. It looks like it's going to be an incredible spot and spectacle for fans as well. That the only good thing I didn't mind SA Athletics Stadium, but it seems as a spectator you're very far away from the pitch.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's horrible like that, and especially commentating, it makes it very difficult as well.
Yeah, it's horrible.
You're like looking at ants.
For our product to be something that people want to go to and enjoy an atmosphere and go and watch what SA has to offer at the top level, NPL, we need boutique grounds like Blue Eagles, and Campbelltown, where you've got a fenced off main pitch. You've got good facilities there to sit and watch the game or stand around and watch the game. I went to watch City against Melbourne Victory at Martin. I know a lot of people that came to our grand final actually preferred the grand final
same here
at Martin to watch it compared to Highmarsh, because with the amount of people that we get there, the atmosphere was a lot better at Martin than what it was in the previous years.
For me, I've been to a lot of A-League games, and it felt like the atmosphere there was better than some A-League games I've been to, whereas like Wellington Phoenix and LA United, which have about 7,000, they had about 3,000, I believe, at your grand final, and it just, that atmosphere, when everyone's so close, you're in a boutique stadium, it's perfect for the game.
Yeah, and that's what we need. Obviously, everybody can't get there straight away, but that's what we need. We would love to see a little boutique stadium at Ellis Park with a home ground there. Santos or SA Athletics is getting upgraded by SA Athletics. They're spending, I think, $10 million putting in a new track, a new digital scoreboard, new change rooms. It's getting a facelift for athletics, not for football. But obviously, with the renovations going on, we can't play there. So it wasn't we made a decision to leave. I don't think we would have left SA Athletics until Ellis Park was up and running. But this has forced the club's hand, and without being able to play at Ellis straight away, they had to find somewhere else. I think there was a few options, but playing on a brand new grass pitch with a new stadium and new change rooms, who would say no to that?
Absolutely.
If you don't have any other alternatives.
Yeah, but hopefully in the near future, you guys will be able to get to Ellis Park and be close for me as well, because I work down Franklin Street, so it's literally just down the road. So come to a game on a Friday night, perfect.
There you go. And look, ultimately as a club too, I mean, these things get forgotten when you talk about, you know, clubs and how they've performed and what they've been able to achieve. I think the club's done fantastically well, and we've been able to achieve some things without having a home ground.
Yep.
You know, how many other teams in the NPL don't have a home ground to play at?
Yeah.
And generally, the teams that lose their home ground, and there's been a few in recent history that have not had a home ground because they've tried to move or they've tried to do upgrades and they've had to play somewhere else without their home, they've generally suffered and either got relegated or completely dropped away from being competitive. For the Comets to stay competitive and challenge for things while still not having a home ground, a genuine home ground at their own club, speaks volumes for what we've been able to do. But I think the evolution of the club is to get home to Ellis as soon as possible and play all their home games there.
And you got the crossbar there as well, which is the home club rooms. I saw a video doing the rounds on social media for Valentine's Day. And you were featured in it as well. Tell me a little bit about that, because you looked a little bit uncomfortable in the video.
Nick makes me uncomfortable all the time. But I knew there was a stitch up there. So, no, it was a bit of fun and a promotion for people. Obviously, places are hard to get into for Valentine's Day or on a Monday night. If you had your junior kids and you don't have time, there was an option there, and it was a good night. I hear from Nick that they had a great night, and they actually had quite a few people attend.
That's cool.
And have dinner there, but that was just a bit of fun, bit of a promotional video to let people know that the crossbar's there.
It definitely got it out, mate. Before we wrap it up, I want to do a quick kicking at local questions. I like doing. I call it kicking at questions. But which footballer would you love to kick with? Have a kick, because now it does. This is a bit redundant when talking to you, because you've kicked with some of the best names in football. Mark Viduka. Just give me one that you haven't kicked with yet.
Oh, look, you can go non-Aussie if you talk about global footballers, but
talk global. Who would you love
want to have
with?
a kick with? Messi.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or Ronaldo. Unreal talent, generational talents, those two. So either or.
There you go. And also, you've probably done this as well. Name two people, so one in international football and someone from your club or in the local game who you'd love to kick back on a Saturday night and just watch any football. Can be EPL, Champions League, FA Cup.
I think just for the laughs, internationally, I think Jamie Carragher.
Oh, yeah, good one. Good choice.
Is hilarious in how he gets fired up. I reckon I could wind him up pretty good, actually. So that'd be pretty fun watching a game with him. Locally, in our local game...
many characters in the local game, isn't
there?
there?
We've got a lot of smart asses. So take your pick. Off the cuff, though, who'd I like to watch a local game with? Geez, I don't know. That's a tough one. Anyone
at the club in the Comets that's just... stand out?
I see them enough.
Yeah, you don't want to deal with them.
I see them enough throughout the week and on a game day, then to hang out with them afterwards. No, they're a good bunch of boys. Probably Nathan Andy Janto.
Yeah,
he's a Jekyll and Hyde sort of guy. When he gets on that pitch, he's a different character, but he's a lot of fun and easy to wind up off the pitch as well. So. From my team, that'd be him.
Yep.
From the other teams, probably Lewis Moss. Different character.
That's a good one.
Lewis makes me laugh at times at some of the things that he does.
Yeah.
Mercurial talent. When he's on, he's unreal. So probably Mossy.
Great choice there. That'd be a lot of fun on a Saturday night, hanging out with those guys. Thank you so much for joining me, Barney. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, the Kicking It Local
No worries,
podcast.
Johnny. Pleasure to be here.
That was Barney Smith, the head coach of the Adelaide Comets in the National Premier League. Make sure you subscribe to Kicking It Local wherever you get your podcasts so you can get a taste of the SA football community. Plus, follow at Kicking It Local SA on Instagram and Twitter so you don't miss any of the action. See you soon!